Good evening. Welcome. Everyone can hear me? All right. I'm Superintendent Suda. I have been here in the district as superintendent for 13 years. 3 years before that, I was the elementary principal, and both my sons attended this school and graduated. And then my husband, Ross, has also been in the community for 30 years. So that's a little bit about me. At the front table here, we have Mike Barsness from Kraus Anderson and Todd Blixt from Icon and Kyle Kwame from Icon and our school board president, Tim Zett. So these contractors and architects have helped us through this project and develop, help us with all of our discussions. So a little bit of background information. The Hillsboro School Board and we monitor the pulse of our community. And when the new housing development came up on the west side of Interstate, we were asked, will Hillsboro School be ready for growth? And so in August of 2021, we had a demographic study done on our school district, and the report came back saying that there's going to be about 229 potential units to be built in the future. They were hoping to have about 5 homes sold a year. So our enrollment has been stable the last 15 years, and in the last 15 years, our enrollment has increased 100 students. So we have the potential for an increase of growth with this housing development. As you know, our school buildings are old. Some of them they average 67 years old. The high school building has a section that was built in 1894. The girls' locker room and gym were built in 1949, and the boiler room was built in 1954. The remaining parts of the school were built in 1965. Renovations made to the high school here were in 2007 when we did the office area, the fax room, and the science rooms. Over at the elementary school, the main classroom area was built in 1959, with additions in 2000 to the elementary office area, 2003 to the Hillsboro Event Center, and 2014 for the additional classrooms, special service offices, and fitness center. So in May of 2022, we had a facility assessment completed on our district facilities. The findings were that the deferred maintenance of both school buildings would cost over $18 million in 10 years. We had many life, safety, and code violations at the high school and not as many at the elementary school. So the district had some things to consider. Do we look at putting money into our old buildings? Do we build new over on the land just south of the elementary? Or do we do a combination of both? So in July of 2022, a school and community committee was formed, which consisted of a diverse group of critical thinkers that are invested in the community of Hillsboro to bring a facilities concept to the board to consider. This group, we workshopped the advantages and disadvantages of renovating and building. The architects provided us mock drawings at our request, and Kraus Anderson provided us with design, construction, and site numbers to work with. So on March 28th, 2023, the school district held a special election to raise the debt limit to 10%. This passed by 66%. So currently our school district tax valuation is $23,791,000. Our assessed value for the district is $244,313,000. Our outstanding debt is $2.5 million, and that it comes from the additional classrooms and the sports complex project. So with the debt limit vote approval allowing up to 10%, the highest amount the district can ask in a referendum vote is to borrow about $24 million. Well, we still have that $2.5 million in debt, and we have 12 years remaining on those bonds. So with our existing debt, the debt margin available at this time is about 21 million. So in April this year, we sent out a district-wide survey to get feedback on some of the district needs and planning that the school and the community committee and the school board had produced. 72% of respondents support some type of school building project. The survey also showed that more support would be given to the project if the cost were reduced. So at the July 26th school board meeting, the school board moved forward with going to a referendum vote of 12 million on September 26th, 2023. So what are our challenges? Both buildings, we lack learning space. Many of the areas here at the high school do not comply with ADA regulations. For instance, right here in the gym, if you walk out this exit, you have to go down a step and up 5 to get out of here safely. Out this hallway door here, the ramp is not at grade, or it's not at regulation, it's too steep, the grade is. And then out these back doors, to go down to the girls' locker room, you must use steps. And across from the girls' locker room steps is our elevator. And that currently doesn't work because Schindler can't find the parts and it's too old to repair. So if a child with disabilities came to our school right now, we would not be able to get them into our music, our ag ed, and our girls and boys locker room. What we've done in the past is we've moved classes to one of the areas where they could be. So we've adjusted. All of our high school classrooms, besides the science ones that were renovated in 2007, they're undersized and outdated, and they lack heating and cooling controls. The boiler system at the high school is past its life expectancy. Both schools lack secure entrances. Both schools lack a fire sprinkler system. And the windows at both schools are past their life expectancy. Downstairs here at the high school, we have an area that's 1894 and it's in very poor condition. When it rains, the water comes down the walls. We have flooding. And unfortunately, we have to have an art room down there because we were donated a kiln. And that's the only area we could keep the kiln is in a classroom down there. So I think you could all agree that the current challenges are all very much important areas of our schools.
So with all that information, we were put we worked through the options. Let's take a look at renovating. Let's take a look at building new. So why would we not renovate? A lot of the needs in this building, highly high high cost for electrical and sprinkler upgrades, things to bring this building back into code and the other building for that matter. Um, our our cost would be very high to modernize these two buildings. Um, to the level of new construction. So that was one of the things that was kind of pushing us towards the new construction. The old age of these additions have caused some concerns in that matter as well. And then again, the cost, 75% of what a new building would cost would be in to renovating this particular building. So it was one of those things that we kind of looked at and kind of moved uh, the idea of both the hybrid new and some renovation because we need the square footage. We didn't have enough square footage. We can't build enough square footage with the amount of dollars that we can take on in our debt limit. Correct. Yep. Kyle just reminded me all the data that we went through to get to that point is on the website, uh, the school's website, and there's links on the top there that can show. So we come up with some solutions. What might work in our with what we have to work with. The school community committee worked through a bunch of scenarios. I mean, we had 2 3 hour meetings every 2 to 4 weeks, and we would brainstorm all of the different ideas. This solution here came up to be one of the most logical solutions that we could kind of put together. Um, Revamping some of the current square footage, working towards putting together some new square footage on our new property. We would do boiler renovations. We've got a boiler downstairs. We would move that up and put it back out here in our current ag education area. Um, our girls' locker room would also move into that similar space, that similar footprint from underneath the stage over here. And then we would be able to demolish, remove some of that area that Paula spoke of with the flooding, some of that other stuff that wasn't, it isn't so functional. We would do HVAC upgrades at the elementary school. Our elementary school is in less disrepair. We're able to manage, I think, a lot of that stuff in that area. The entrances we would put in secure entrances here and at the elementary school to just help isolate traffic. Not going to allow um, any people into the building that couldn't be. It really can help. That was one of the reasons that we did the fitness center the way we did. That entrance used to be a shared entrance. You guys probably know it as Mrs. Surface's music room now, but that used to be the fitness center, and there was access for general public into the school without any monitoring. And we revamped that to help secure the school a little bit better. And this would also do the same. We would be looking at building new specialized spaces over on the land down on the south of the current elementary school, which would allow for us to uh, begin what we would hope could become a very nice uh, new high school in the 20-year plan or 25-year plan. So we've got a fax, egg education, and music um, earmarked for that. That's kind of what would go in that space right now because they're our highest needs. They need some revamp around here, and I think that was what we came to the consensus would be the best way to transition and free up space here and there.
Thank you. Yep. So part of the reasoning behind that is that those spaces that we'd be replacing with the new space are spaces that don't meet code or don't meet the expectations or needs for the school right now. So it's replacing spaces that aren't necessarily accessible or aren't serving proper function and then laying the groundwork. That's a question that I think the committee and the community has asked is what does that look like in the future? And why aren't we doing this all right now? And I think the main reasons are just cost. You know, the debt limit limits how much the district can ask for, but from our survey, that isn't even a factor because for the community to support the project, the cost needs to be a little bit less. So even if the debt limit was higher, it probably wouldn't make sense for the district to just say, let's build an all new $50 million solution because it'd be too costly to do to taxpayers. So what we're trying to do here is balance based on the survey results, balance there's support to do something, but all the options presented didn't have support financially. So that's where we came with, you know, the survey had a $14 million number and this is a $12 million number. So cutting a little bit of the scope, but allowing us to have a master plan where you can see here, you know, we're able to add on a high school. You know, even this is a concept and it hasn't been designed yet. So we're just showing that there's space on the site for a new high school and then space on the site for an elementary. And, you know, we think that maybe if you look at this is phase one, you know, we're targeting now, but is, you know, if we look at 10 years, 15 years down the road, is that the opportunity to target the high school as being replaced, you know, with the majority of the high school being built in the 60s? It's, you know, if we fast forward another 15 years, it's getting to be where there's probably going to be some of this that needs to be replaced or taken offline. So then you could have a nice campus. And then finally with the elementary, as it makes sense and as the district would support it. There's lots of questions around how we pay for things and how things happen, and we're kind of at the mercy of what you know, Century Code allows the district to do. And this is the smartest way, in the opinion of the committee, to respond to the community's survey results. So what that looks like is you look at a tax impact. So we have a calculator on the school's website that will allow you to enter in your true and full value, and it will tell you your approximate tax impact, and that's annually. What we try to do is just keep nice round numbers for everyone to kind of do the math themselves. So if you look at $100,000 of residential property, that's $167 per year of tax impact for the project. And then you can kind of do the math and you'll see it's a 5% difference between residential and commercial or ag. So you can go in there, you enter your true and full value, and then it will give you an opportunity to get your exact tax impact. And here's an example of a Trail County tax statement, and you can see your true and full value is the number that we want. So that number that's right there, and this presentation will be online. It's being recorded right now, but it'll also be online for people to look at. So the true and full value is the number that you're going to use to try to calculate your tax impact. That number should, as close as possible, represent what market value is. It's not exact, right? And then the taxable value, which is the number right below it, that's actually the number that's on ballot language. So it's kind of confusing. So if someone were to go through and say, I'm going to calculate my taxes, and the ballot uses X number of dollars per taxable valuation, and you're to say, okay, my home is going to cost $20,000 a year extra, chances are the numbers are flipped unless your home is millions and millions and millions of dollars. So if you get a number and it feels like this isn't right, I would just say to either call the county or call the school and get some more information. But this is a good kind of way to, if you have your tax statements, to look at that, and then it'll help you through the calculator. And we're going to stay here, and we have other members of the team to answer your questions and talk through things. So if you have a question, please don't hesitate.
So we're looking at doing a bunch of meetings with the community and give them the same exact information that we're getting tonight. And then any questions and comments that you give us tonight, we'll find the answers out to and make sure we present that with the information. So here you can see we've sent out postcards to all the residents in August here. Tonight's our first public meeting. We plan to be at our football game and give out more information. We're going to go visit HEDC, the Trail County Commission, the city of Hillsboro. On September 12th, we'll visit Kiwanis and the fire department. On September 13th, we'll go visit HBA. On the 20th, we'll have our second public meeting, and then the vote is scheduled for September 26th. And the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the high school library. And then also we'll have absentee ballots available, and that's by contacting our business manager, Vicki Grothman. So what kind of questions or comments does the group have? We have our, do you guys have any other comments that we might have missed on a slide or something? You kind of looking like you had some. Well, you guys have all heard this a lot more than our patrons. So, if there's anything confusing we set up here, it would be needed to be pointed out to us. Yes, question. Can you, let's go, Mike.
Well, thanks for giving us an opportunity to kind of see what the community's doing. A couple of questions that I've got is I didn't get a chance to go on the website and see the calculator. What does this calculate? We'll just say if a farmer has $1 million worth of property, what does this actually calculate out at?
Can I have the mic? Just so he records.
So if you look at the calculator here, you can see this is set to $100,000 of value. So you just multiply that times 10. So it's $186 per $100,000 of value. So if you have 200,000 times 2 times 10, right? So you would be at what, 1,800 and or 1,864 $6 $60 and $604. Yeah, there you go. I can't, math is, we're not, yeah, you got it. Thank you. And if you want to repeat,
I appreciate it. So simple math is $1,674.43 for $1 million of property.
that's not so
Okay.
the ag tax rate is 5% more than residential.
So here's my concern. Okay, is a couple of things. We have Rick Becker that's putting in an initiated measure to actually eliminate all of property tax in the state of North Dakota. I mean, there's grants and depends how you look at that language, right? As the committee looked at what's going to happen if that initiated measure comes and if that passes, how is this going to affect the financial planning of this project?
think the small things that I've read about it is that it doesn't affect anything like this, but I think you'd have to talk to your legislatures to see how that would roll out. But I believe the language is that it isn't affecting bonds or things like that. It's just property tax. Again, we're not the experts.
And we do have two legislators in here tonight, so unless they have more information on that, they could help us with that answer.
I apologize for being the wet blanket here. I truly do, because I generally don't show up to these things. But I happen to be one of those property taxpayers, and it impacts me. And so one of the things that I'm struggling with is the fact that we have rampant inflation, and I think all of our budgets have been squeezed quite a lot. And so what I'm wondering is, why the rush now? Why not wait 2 or 3 years, let some of this inflation that's going across the country and our budget settle out a little bit, and then revisit it at that time?
I can answer that a little bit, and you're right. Over the last 2, 3 years, agriculturally, construction, just in our everyday grocery, we have seen a fair amount of inflation, um, to the point of maybe 30%, at least in my field of construction, over the last year or two. Typically, what we've seen and what we track as a company, once you're at that level, it never goes back down. Usually, we see anywhere from a 3 to 5% inflationary increase every year, regardless of how the economy's doing or that. So, to answer your question, in another 3 years, at the minimum, I'd say you could see another 9% increase in cost, um, potentially more, depending on what this inflationary ramp's been over the last 3 years, which I don't think anybody really saw coming. So that's really all I can really do to answer that question for you, is we do still see more inflation every year.
Just a reminder of the timeline. We did start this a year and a half ago. We've been working on this for quite some time. Some people think we're moving too fast. Some think we're moving too slow. With the vote in September, that would allow us to look at getting bids early February and March to get started for the construction season in May. And so we're still how many months out of construction then? Is it a year and a half to get a building up?
Yeah, our construction schedule, as far as getting the new building up, that would go faster. The challenges that we'd have would be working in as much construction work in 2 summers for the existing school, so we can still maintain the existing facilities, and as close of a way for Paula and her administration and staff to use those as normal while we're still, doing construction work. So, by using that first summer and then the summer of the following year, we'd have that new building done, and then we'd be just trying to get like the HVAC replacement, or the boiler room replacement here in this building would probably be the toughest part of that to get done. That might even be a 2 summer deal.
One thing I just add, I'll just so you can see, you know, the survey said 72% said supporting to build into a new school, or to supported building a new school versus investing in the current school. So that was really what the committee kind of took to heart. And then the next piece of that was, the smaller option from the committee was the $14 million option, and there wasn't enough support for that. It was 57.8, which we need 60%. So for us, the feedback was very clear to not invest more than needed here, but not to spend that much money. And so that was the directive that we took back. And then the other piece I would just add, is that we've worked with the district for a long time. And as we go through these processes, our goal is to get you guys to agree with what we're presenting, not to appease them, because they don't pay us. And at this point, we've been working for a year and a half, and we haven't invoiced the district a penny, because that's kind of our model. Our model is that the patrons will pay us when we've earned their trust and they vote yes on a project that we present. So I would say the committee was always asking for things, and we were always kind of secretly like, is that going to fly? Is that cost effective? Does that make sense? because again, the only way, as a business that we function is not to spin our wheels here, but to have you guys say, yeah, that makes sense, which is why, that assessment is a very big detailed assessment that has narratives, then it has pictures explaining code things, then it has cost per square foot going out 10 years that Kraus Anderson and Icon paired together so that you can see all the maintenance needs of the district and understand, why they might or might not want to reinvest in the school. And that was stuff that we summarized in the survey, but then the links have all been online, and we have lots and lots of data. So I would just say if you have questions on that, the goal is that we're making decisions based on data and not emotion. And so that makes sense to you guys. And so as you're thinking about this, just please don't, keep the questions coming. Those are the things that if you have that question, chances are someone else does too. So we want to hear it and address it, and hopefully we're able to answer it tonight.
My question? Comment?
See if I can stand up. So one thing I don't understand is that the number thrown out for a new high school is $40 million. But only 5 million of this bond issue is going to go towards that 40 million, which is going to leave 35 million left to do. Now, if we don't come with a second bond issue until the 20 years is up and this is paid off, even if you could bond for 20 million 20 years down the road, you're not going to meet half the cost of a new high school. So I don't see how we're ever going to have a new high school at that rate.
So the question about how you're ever going to afford it, and I think that that's the challenge that in North Dakota we're going to have to. It's a bigger problem. Currently, the only way that districts can build is either to take money from their general fund or to levy property taxes. And I think we probably can all unanimously agree on one thing, that we'd like another option. And there isn't one right now. So there's not anything that we can do. And we're limited by debt limit, and we're also limited by appetite. One of the things that I'd share is that if you look at our 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 debt or our debt service, so if it's $167 per year per 100,000, we have trends that show at about 225 per year per 100,000 across the state. Doesn't matter if you're Class A, Class B, they fail more than they pass. So the system as it is doesn't scale long term, I think, based on inflation. Now, if everybody's property values in the next 5 years goes up 30%, and your income goes up 30%, and then taxes go up 30%, then maybe it will be fine. But as it sits now, I completely agree with you. And all we're trying to do is make meaningful chunks that set the district up for success, so that we're not putting good money into something that's just going to be, non-usable.
Just to put into perspective, the challenge we have with our tax base is that 5 years ago, Moorhead built a new high school for $110 million. It serves the top 4 grades, about 2,100 students. So the upfront building cost for that school was about $52,000 per student. In Hillsboro, if we're talking $40 million for a new school to serve 6 grades and about 210 to 220 students, all of a sudden the cost goes up to about $185,000 per student. So that's a part of the challenge that we face with our tax base and what we can bond for.
That's why we're not proposing that. It wouldn't fly. And then the other piece is that in Minnesota, ag land gets a 70% credit for any school building projects that's paid for by the state. That's something that's quite different.
Not to argue with you, Glenn, because you're better at math than I'll ever be. I know that. But if you want to change that ratio, you got to change the denominator. And the only way to change the denominator is to get some of these houses sold. The only way to reduce the burden on the ag land is to get more residential land developed and being taxed at that level, where you're taking 75 feet of a housing lot rather than an acre of farmland. Ask yourself, how is Horace doing it? How is Davenport growing exponentially? How is Kindred, which is roughly the same distance from Fargo as Hillsboro, there's a 5 mile difference. I'll argue with. I'll arm wrestle you over the 5 miles. But their population has increased. Was it twofold in the last 10 years? And they're skewing younger. Their enrollment is 100 and some odd kids more than Hillsboro. They're skewing younger. They're filling up their developments. They're generating new wealth that wasn't here today to change that denominator on the equation that you're using. So you're asking how it's going to get done. That's the only way it's. And to the other point, the only way you're going to build the bigger school is to increase the number of people paying property taxes in this market. It's how the schools are funded. And it's been that way since, I don't know, Mike, when was the first year the North Dakota legislature met? Yeah, before we were a state. And it hasn't changed. And I don't see it changing. And you can ask these guys. I don't want to put Mike on the spot, but I just gave him a little bad time about that. Said, what are the chances it's going to change in the next 2, 4, 10 years? It ain't going to change. Prices are going to continue to go up. Everybody here knows I'm pro this, I'm pro that, pro everything, right? And then probably pro, whatever. We'll figure it out. And this isn't a figure it out situation. The only way this works is to fill up that development, get another one going with another 140 some odd homes, paying their fair share of taxes, reducing the debt load on ag land, which everybody wants.
And you're actually wrong, Jim. That's not the only way to do it. We could also take private corporate donations. So if anybody would love to give the school millions, we will put your name right on it, put it on the court, wherever you like it. But, donations are one way that schools can build things. But what do people want is usually it's in a gym or a football field or things like that. But corporate or private donations are also a way to get more money. Yeah. Or just yell it.
I gotta just yell it.
Okay, you yell it.
Okay.
We'll repeat it.
So we're just no other way of funding it. But then in almost the same breath in Minnesota just passed a law. Well, why can't we do that here? Why can't we bring this to the legislature?
Okay, so the question was Minnesota does it. Why can't we do it? Why can't we? Okay. Do you have an answer to that question?
No, but I'm going to add to it. In this last legislature, we passed a $500 million tax relief bill. I can't argue with the part that was for property taxes. Everybody thinks property taxes are too high. But 357 million went to income tax reductions. And most of those, everybody knows, most of those go to people that don't really need it. But the thing about it is that that's $500 million that's going to be spent and gone in 2 years, and then it's gone. Why doesn't the legislature dedicate $50 million a year for 10 years to rural education? I'd like to see our legislators canvass the rural districts in the state and see what the needs are. And if we could, 50 million a year would be what, 5% of or 10% of the interest off of the legacy fund. So it's not a big number. And after 10 years, it'd be matching grants, so the school districts would have skin in the game. After 10 years, you could potentially have $1 billion put into rural education in North Dakota. And that's something that's going to pay dividends for the next 50 years. That's what I'd like to see our legislators do.
So you're saying if we were to build, it'd be an investment. And that's what I want to remind everybody today. The decisions we make, and if we move forward with the referendum, it would be an investment in our community and in our children. And that's why we're here. And that's what we want to do to be successful. Yeah.
So I actually completely agree with that point of view. Legislature for a couple of years, and that's something that was supported. But I'll say is that there's one thing that really bugs me, and that there's no easy way to say it. I apologize in advance. But it bugs me a little bit to know that there's a construction company who's incentivized to move the project forward because they have not yet been paid. That pushes the construction company. I understand that business model, and
fast as you can because you already have investment in it. I understand that, and that makes sense to me. The second point I'm questioning is that we talk about this survey. What was the demographics of the survey and how many people were surveyed?
So the survey went out to all of the independent company, school perceptions. So if you were in the district, you would have received, I mean, we did a ton of mailings out there and we received 330 respondents. Mhm. And so they're in no rush. The reason why we're having the September vote is because we need to have our budget in by October 10th, our final budget to the county auditor. So the timeline came to a point where we needed to make that decision to get this on to vote so that it could come on our January taxes. And so they're not the ones pushing us at all. This has been the board, the school committee. We're the ones saying, this seems to be the timeline. Here's the rate we're going. Here's where we need to go. So, yep.
And I can speak for the board, I guess, with the progress on that. If we, one way or another, we just need to be able to work through it. You know what I'm saying? It's not that we're trying to push it through. We're trying to come up with the best plan that we can and have it move forward. So we want progress, but you got to take a step. We got to start somewhere. So we're working with that as well. So we're not trying to rush at all, but we're trying to continue to move forward. We have to move some.
I think the gentleman had a great comment of skin in the game, and that's exactly what we do. We could come and say we're going to bill you hourly, and we're going to work for a year and a half, and the district could be out tens of thousands of dollars, and then we get to just drive home. And whether something passes or doesn't pass, we don't care. We found that that is not a genuine response to engage a community that we aren't a part of. We do kind of think we're a part of this community because we've been working in this community for a couple decades now, but we purposely don't charge until the voters say, yes, we believe in whatever you've presented us, as a point to say that we're not going to ram something that doesn't make sense, that's our prerogative, that's the board or the administrator's prerogative. For us, we care about what you guys think. Honestly, we don't really care what the board or Paula thinks because they're not going to pay us. So for us, it's the most honest way to do business. And it's the way that we do it at a large scale because we try to bring forward solutions, we try to get facts, and then just you guys will decide. It's the easiest way. If you don't want to pay us, it's very easy for you to not pay us.
And I know in legislation this year, you guys had bills with the school building fund and construction, school-owned construction, things like that. So every year we try visit with our legislators, give them the Minnesota model. We worked with the Grand Forks legislators too because Grand Forks was going through this, and we're trying. We're going to keep lobbying with them and keep trying to get it every 2 years. That's as best as we can do. I mean, and anybody who wants to help us do that, it'd be great. And we would have a plan in place. The problem with the CTE grant money that some of the bigger districts got is because they had the whole plan in place, the architect, the everything, the designs, and we were too late. And we don't want to be late anymore. We want to make sure we have a plan. More questions? Comments? Yeah. Do you want to yell?
No, I'll just yell.
Okay.
Other communities that have made an investment there, what's happened there? What trend basically they're going?
So the question was other schools that have made investments in their school. We get this a lot at our school and community committee. We talk about Castleton School, Kindred School, all of those. They're making additions to their schools. They're building in phases. Northern Cass building in phases as the money comes available. And so this isn't a new concept to build in phases. Northwood got hit by a tornado, and so they got some FEMA money, but they're still building in phases. They just added a theater now. So I know some people don't like the idea. That's probably the most common question I get is, let's build what we want. Well, of course we can't. We can't afford that right now, but we need to build it in phases. And what it does to the community, I mean, it just keeps growing and growing. I mean, Castleton, Kindred, Horace, Northern Cass, they still are getting people to come to them. And the good news is we're still getting families to come here. We get talked to all the time. We give them tours and they're still coming to our school and we're showing them older schools, but we've been successful in sports and we're competing in dramas and different activities, so we're trying to build an all-around student. And so, you build it and they will come. I think there's truth to that. And so we have to invest in our community. And those schools are definitely seeing enrollment growth. Yes, like Castleton will be Class A in all sports here pretty soon.
So we worked in Maple Valley, in Tower City, and that was a project where we just did a classroom and consolidation addition, and in 2 years they saw a 10% enrollment growth, and we're now currently underway on the second phase of that process of adding a gym, and they added classrooms. If you look at Hatton, they added classrooms and a gym. They've still seen enrollment growth. You look at Northwood, so yes, they had FEMA dollars, but they in 10 years saw 33% enrollment growth. And then since then, we went and passed a bond with them in 2018 to add 5 classrooms in the theater because they were out of classroom space. So there's lots to say about when you improve the front door of your community or invest in it. It attracts more people. And in Maple Valley, Tower City specifically, they couldn't get a developer to come in and build lots. And now there's 4 houses going up right now, and I think 2 or 3 of them are already sold. So it's really great for them. They've just seen growth not only with their enrollment, but people actually moving to town.
Just about school. Also remember that increased taxes will be a different as well. But well, they also took all of them at the same time, so we got to get multiple. Second to the county tax. She said that on average we're getting $500 building. And people will keep that in account too.
Mhm.
The average Chinese school is also increased taxes.
So the question or the comment was that with the increased taxes, that will scare people away too, or it's not an incentive to move here. Pro and a con. Yep. Yep. Not all pros. We did get reminded of the rugby school did a big addition, and then they had roads going on, and they had a new hospital built, and now they have a really nice town with really nice streets. And I know the city's doing a 1.5 million, I believe, is it? And so we're going to have that added to our taxes, and it's just time. You see our streets, you see our schools, things are old. We've put it off, and now we have to take care of it before it gets too expensive. Yes, Ryan.
Let's say if we wait 10 years to do this project. So if we do it that way.
He's the number guy.
Well, 3% a year, that's what, another $1,000,000 a year, $1.5 million a year, compounded over 10 years. You could be, at a steady rate of 3% interest, you could be well over 50 million.
Yeah, a school is one of the pulses in the community. And so, we're fortunate we have the hospital, Traill County seat, the school, and businesses that are thriving. So we need to continue that. More questions or comments? Yes.
The 10% debt limit, is that sorry for my ignorance, is that from the century code or is that it is?
Yep. Schools can either go 5% or 10%. So back in March when we voted, we went from 5 to 10. Yep. And that you only need a 50% to pass, and we had 66. And this isn't even going over the 5%, this amount.
Right. So fundamentally, as has been discussed, the economy of building now versus doing it in pieces over time, it's not even possible.
So
in other words, a new high school now, as it's been discussed, is
we wouldn't be capable of matching square footage. That's the hard part. And with hopes that we would be needing larger square footage over the course of the next 10 years, but we wouldn't be able to build this square footage with our current debt limit, the square footage that we have currently.
Without private. Gary, yes.
And to renovate this to code. We either gotta spend 20 million on existing, which we get nothing more for, or start updating for each facility. Where does, if it doesn't pass, where does that 20 million?
And, you have that slide. It doesn't. So the question was, when our facilities assessment came out, the total cost for both schools was over 18 million in the next 10 years. And so we have to do some type of upkeep in both buildings, and we would probably need the vote just to do those every time too, if we were just going to keep renovating. Right. There'd be a go to a vote. Yes.
Which is kind of what we saw as a group as well. It was like, well, so if we're going to spend money, let's not throw money, but at, good money at something that we can't use long term, because this is probably not a 50-year solution. I mean, there's no path that leads to us in this building for the next 40 to 50 years. No amount of money that we bill any patron in this community gets that done. So either we build on this site or we build someplace else or renovate. Right. That building is a more serviceable building than this. It's got less detriments with code and that kind of stuff. It still needs some repair, but it's functional. We've done a great job of keeping these facilities up. I mean, there's a facility, there's part of this building that's 140 years old. That's incredible. I mean, it's been really well kept. So it's not because we're not trying, and it's not because we're going to just throw our hands up and walk away from this building. We're going to do our best to keep the tax bill down and keep moving forward is what our hopes are, I guess.
Yes. And if anyone would like to see the 1894. Absolutely. We can give tours anytime. Yes, Alyssa. You might.
I just wanted to speak a little bit to what Gary was saying about how the funding will be needed regardless. One quick question, is air conditioning for this auditorium on the list? Because I think we can all feel in here that it is sorely needed. And I know the kids using the gym throughout the summer, some of them were in here for 7 or 8 hours working on activities and, was getting text messages, we need water, it's so warm in here, things like that. It's hard to learn, it's hard to focus when, you're in an environment that's warm and uncomfortable. And also the ADA compliance issues are really an ordeal. And it's something that I didn't even really notice until this year when I was trying to get someone in and out of school in a wheelchair. And the angles, just because there's a ramp doesn't mean it's accessible. There's angles where the chair falls down the steps. You might be able to get a chair up there. There's no button to actually open the door. There's little lips to try and get you have to basically pop a wheelie to get the wheelchair in. And I don't think it's fair to ask our students to wait on, especially some of those types of changes. And as much as we'd like to see, changes come through the state legislature, it doesn't move quickly. And I think that if we wait for the funding mechanism to change, none of us is going to be around to see it. I mean, it just doesn't happen that fast. So getting back to the students, the ones who have to go to school here, I mean, I hate to use the whole think of the children thing, but they're the ones that are most impacted by this. And what do they need to learn and fulfill their potential every day when they come here?
Just because I like the sound of my own voice, but the adage that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time to plant a tree is right now. And that's what you're doing here, is figuring out how to plant this tree. And I get it, you're going to try to figure out to do it the best way, but yeah, that, I'm not going to.
The reason for not going to the max, the 21 million, is because of survey results and sentiment.
So he said the reason of not going to the 21, just max it out. Let's go all the way down the road. 21 million doesn't quite get us all the way there anyway. So it didn't make sense. It felt a little bit reckless to go spend that, come up short, and then we're still in phase one. We got to work through phase probably 2 and 3 before we've got everything that we really want. The 2 being the high school, 3 being the elementary school, all in one campus. So that it didn't get us there. So we scaled it back. The support at the community level of the 14 million. I think there's support to be had there. I think that we're not far from there. But again, it was that of the committee that I think our real support of actually moving forward and laying that first chunk of groundwork was at that $12 million number.
I ended up on this advisory board just because I hadn't been in this school for quite a few years, and I thought I'd better look at it before I decided on how to vote on things. And I want to say the architects in no way are rushing us. We had them draw many different plans, commented on them, changed the plans, changed again. The survey showed just about a 60% vote. And we thought, well, certainly we can achieve that 60% vote. They said maybe, maybe not. Sometimes the votes just don't change the percentage wise, and you just don't quite make that 60%. So they had to change the plan again. That's what they got. And what do we owe the students a new school? Probably not. But all the parents in the community want the best teachers we can hire. Sometimes we need a better facility to attract and keep really good teachers.
Look, I have no doubt that we need a new school. Not one bit. I think we all agree that we desperately need a new school, and I don't think there's a person in our school district that thinks it's not important. But the taxes will personally cost me roughly $100 a month, every single month. That's the real world impact of a lot of other people too. I mean, I homeschool my kids, but I still absolutely believe in the public school education. And I love, and I've always told you, is that I love our Hillsboro public school. I truly do. And I understand what impact it has, but I understand the impact that this has on my personal budget is $100 a month. If I asked you, can you please give me $100 a month? I just need $100 a month. That's what I need. That's a hard ask. And for everybody, that number is going to be different. For me, It's $100 a month. Actually, it's over. I just did the math on this. It's over $100 a month. That's a big ask. And I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be done, but I'm saying we've already been hit with a lot of inflation. We've already been hit with so many things, and that's an extra $100 a month. While gas prices aren't going down. And thank you so much for doing this, and thanks for hearing me out.
I got to agree with the gentleman there because not only are we getting hit with more taxes, but uh, we're getting hit on the city side. Interest rates are going up to get a 30-year loan for a new house that you want people to come in and buy and everything. It's up to 6.78%, and a lot of families can't afford that. So even though like you say, if you build it, they'll come. Well, sometimes if you build them, they don't come because they can't afford it. Um, the school system or the school runs is fighting with the city because the city, Hillsboro cities, are increasing our mills over 16 mills. And when I talk to the tax people, they don't know yet the exact amount, but they're figuring that's an extra $98 on your tax bill every year. Uh, there's other things to consider besides us them fighting with the mill. Some of our city leaders are spending our money frivolously. We got that state, the sales tax income that's coming in here, and according to the banner here, or actually Paul, one of the middies, they're giving the airport $25,000 dollars to do their tarmac and everything, uh, where they're getting money also from the federal government for the airport, and the airport doesn't do anything for Hillsboro. Um, they're spending money that's unnecessarily. Uh, they Part of that 14 mil increase is to increase the general fund and everything. But there's no say of what goes on with that general fund. The highway department can say, hey, I need to buy a new truck. Okay, take it out of the general fund. Or our sheriff's department. We got rid of our police department, and uh, now Mr. Hunt or Sheriff Hunt, he's gotten uh, new cars, uh, body cams, and now they're going in for pay increases for their deputies, but yet they still can't keep a full regiment of deputies. The old jail here in Hillsboro, the jail that they renovated and everything, they're just using it as an office. And they're taking any prisoners to a different jail and everything at a cost to us of 95 or $100 per person. So it's not just taxes; it's everything. You know, to cost the cost of living has gotten out of hand, and we can't. Me personally, I'm like him. I can't afford to have the mill taxes and then taxed on the school. My son graduated here in 2010, but I just can't see people on fixed incomes getting these taxes higher. Uh, like I talked to Paula here, there's some elderly persons that are on retirement and everything. They get their Social Security check, and then to get their medical and everything, they get $170 from Medicare Part B's got to come out. So there's another expense that the families are going. And then food, basically our basic food and everything went up about 15%, to eat. So now I mean, instead of one can of pork and beans, now that one can of pork and beans has got to last me for 2 meals instead of one. So that's just how I see it.
And those are very good points. I mean, that's the truth of it, and that's why we're asking you guys in the community if, and we live in the United States of America, so it still does with a 60% vote. It's the majority rules, and sometimes we don't like that, and sometimes we do. But we want to make sure that everybody here has got all of the information that they want, and or we want to be as transparent as possible. I mean, that's what these meetings are going to be for. That's why we're having so many, so that as many people that we can touch, we can talk to, get the information that they want or need to make their decision to vote one way or another. Which you can vote. There's absentee ballots available here as needed.
And just a reminder, all of this information is on our main website, hillsboroK12.com, and under future of facilities. And so you'll see the tax calculators, you'll see the fact sheet. That's these poster boards here at both sides. You'll see the video we did after we got our survey results. And so for some of you who wanted more survey results answers, they give the whole presentation on there. So there's a lot of documents on there that you can look and see and get your tax statements and put all these information in there and see what comes out. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you very much. For those who don't know, Representative Mike Belts, I live northeast of town. There's only one true statement about taxes I've ever heard. Fairest tax is the one that or the best like tax is the one that somebody else pays. But be that as it may, it is what it is. There are certain facts of life. Schools, roads, bridges, land have always been expensive. They always will be. That's just a fact of life. We invest in things that have return on investment and for the future of our society. Schools are our future of our society. Being greedy, I want somebody to make decent wages so they can pay my Social Security when I get to that age when I start drawing. You don't do that without good jobs, getting a good education. We work for you, all of us, at different levels. I work at the state level, Paula at the school, Tim, chairman of the school board. I commend them for the approach they've taken. It's been slow, measured, and they've taken input from the community. And the ultimate decision is yours. With your input and your vote, this call is yours, not ours, not theirs. It's your call. They're willing and able to take all the comments you provide and do the best they can with it. Like I said, things change over time. I think the phased approach is prudent. In 10 years, you don't know what the conditions are going to be. Do we grow? Do we not grow? You don't know that today. You can project what you want. The reality is going to be what the reality is. So we'll see what happens. Thank you all for coming out. I'll take questions. I'll take questions. We work for you. Thank you very much.
For Mike, there's a question.
So from your perspective, knowing what we know about how Minnesota funds their schools, how or why can't that work in the North Dakota legislature?
So you're talking apples and oranges. One of the things we do that Minnesota may not do is we have a pool of money that people can apply for, get a low interest loan for an extended term to do these projects. That's something that North Dakota does. I don't know if Minnesota does or not. I know in the last session we increased the number in that pool. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it got bigger because of construction costs and whatnot. That pool got bigger because it needed to. The question is, does it need to be somehow prorated so the big schools can't suck it all up? And maybe it already is. I don't know all the details of the program, but that may be something that's worth looking into. Does the Fargo, the Grand Forks, et cetera, suck the air out of the room when there isn't left for a rural school district? I don't know. That's a good question to ask and see where it's at. The point of property tax, if that passes, all bets are off, and it's going to be a mad scramble to try and figure out how to fund things if the property tax thing goes away. Because it's just a reality. If you're going to have services, the money's got to come from somewhere. If there's a better system, we're all ears. It's been years and years working this way. The other twist is everybody knows what the system is. It's not something new. Property tax has been in play for a long time. People know what the system is. You can either work with it or choose to do something different. But that's the reality again. In the last legislative session, there was one mill to the medical school in Grand Forks. And the argument for keeping that was because it's a stable income source for the medical school. I voted against it because I think there's a better way to do that without doing it through property tax. And that's the only mill the state levies to all the residents on property tax was for the medical school. So that did not pass, so that will be going away, that one mill, and they'll have to adjust. There are ways to do attainable funding. It's just, figure it out, and we will.
Any other questions or comments? As always, you can reach me at my email or at the main office. Come and visit, text, call. We'd love to talk about the project. The school board's been very open to talk about it too, so please confront them. They get paid the big bucks.
We can converse, let's not confront.
But I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you so much.